to One Breath Wisdom, the podcast for therapists, healers, and soul-led space holders, ready to lead from wholeness, not burnout. I am Lisa McNett, founder of One Breath Institute and co-creator of the One Breath Method. Each week, I will be sharing trauma-informed insight, somatic tools, and real stories from the healing path, sometimes solo, sometimes with our co-founder, Deborah Dickey, and sometimes with special guests walking this path in their own powerful way. Together, we will explore how healing, embodiment, and presence can transform the way we live, lead, and care for others without losing ourselves. Let's take a breath and begin. Hello and welcome to One Breath Wisdom. I am your host, Lisa McNett, founder of One Breath Institute. And today I am joined by one of our graduates. I'm always excited to be joined by one of our graduates who is inspiring and has quite an interesting story and journey. And we were just chatting before we opened up that the journey is the destination, but more of that will unfold as we connect. So I am joined by Macy Gough, and Macy is a certified introspective breathwork facilitator. She is the founder of Innate Illuminations, and she is also a modern Kurandera shaman. I just had Macy tell me how to spell that because I've never heard of that before. So I'm curious about what that is. But at Innate Illuminations, I'll let Macy tell us more about what she weaves in and the work that she does. But also, Macy has healed herself of autoimmune disorder, and Macy is living in a van, traveling across the country, and just living the dream. So thank you for being here, Macy.
Thank you.
Yeah. I am so excited for this conversation, and I have a million questions, but is there any place in particular that you would like to start?
Oh my gosh, we can start anywhere. I just want to thank you for bringing me onto this space and yeah, for honestly being a huge part of my journey, being a One Breath Institute graduate and really allowing really my journey to unfold. And yeah, just being a part of it. So thank you. And yeah, we can start with just where it all started, the healing of just autoimmune chronic illness and like how it's launched me forward into life.
Yeah, I would absolutely love for you to start there.
Yeah. About 5 years ago, I was diagnosed with an autoimmune disease called lupus, like a blanket disease, they call it, just because it shows up in so many different ways. And really, I just started with my gut health, just eating better. And 5 years since that time, I have really have no symptoms of chronic illness. I used to have like fibromyalgia and rheumatoid arthritis, and it seems like such an old story in my mind. I still like bringing it up just because it's so relevant to where I am now. And even though I don't really sit in that story of like me being sick anymore, I find it really important to share just because I feel like so many other people are suffering from like physical illness, mental illness, and mine just so happened to be connected. And so, yeah, I just started eating better. And, it wasn't an overnight thing. It was more like let me just cut out dairy. Let me cut out, what's for me, what do I need to cut out? And came to find that everyone's very different. So I'm super passionate about talking about, what does your gut need? It ties in with the felt sense that I felt like we learned it at One Breath, where I'm just listening to my body's innate intelligence. And that's what kind of birthed Innate Illumination, was to really hold space for people to tap into their innate wisdom. And yeah, that all started in the gut for me. And I started to realize like, oh, I'm healing cellularly, like on a cellular level. And eventually like my mind caught up, and it was kind of like a back and forth, like a pendulum between my body catching up to my mind or my mind catching up to my body. And eventually my, what I like to call my third pillar opened up, my spirit opened up again. And um, yeah, I'm really just living in that, in just my mind, body, and spirit connected, and noticing when sometimes I feel like maybe they're not, and other times when I feel connected, and really just being in this present moment. But yeah, I could go on for days, into little categories, but mainly really just what I do is hold space for people to connect through the breath, through their prana, their life force, their vital force energy. Um, and recently I've been exploring tying astrology into that. So I make free astrological breathwork videos on YouTube, and just offer like free resources for people to kind of get a feel of like what I do, what it's like. What's breathing with astrology like? I don't know, you know? Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
so that's been a really fun and creative way to just process what I'm processing too. I like to tie in what's currently going on in astrology. So if you know, right now we've got the sun in Leo, and I like to tie in like, okay, what's that? You know, what can we breathe with that everyone can connect with when it comes to the sun in Leo? Or people have the option of booking a one-on-one session with me where it's more individualized. It's more, we're focusing on, you know, where the planets were when you were born. And really my focus on that is to not put anyone in a box, or to tell someone who they are, or to fix them. It's more still the one breath method is just to hold space for where they're at right now. Um, and to be curious and explore what aspects of their astrology can be like a little roadmap, a little cosmic roadmap of like expect the unexpected, because it's not like, okay, when you're 28 and you have your first Saturn return, this is what's going to happen. It's all going to unfold just like this. I like to more so just give someone a cosmic roadmap and give them um, the guidance so that they can tap into their breath, they can tap into their intuition, and they can tap into what that all means for them. And I'm really just a guide.
Yeah.
And I feel super passionate and called to do that. And yeah, so that's kind of what's been going on since I've graduated One Breath Institute. And since then, I moved to Utah about 3 months ago, bought a van, and moved from the suburbs of Kansas all the way out to the deserts of southern Utah. And I feel like a completely different version of myself.
Yeah, yeah, and I can see that. I mean, you are illuminating. I was connecting with, I remember, I mean, how long has it been? Has it been 3 years, 3.5 years?
Yeah.
Something along those lines. And I remember connecting with you when you were, you know, first became a student, when you were in those first classes, and your whole appearance, your whole aura, your whole attitude, everything is completely different. And so I want to kind of pause and be in that for just a minute, because
Mhm.
you know, when people are people see the now, right? Like people see the now. They see the bubbly, they see the energetic, they see the luminous, they see the, she's living in a van, she's in Utah, she's a badass, she's, you know, she's got her business, all of these things. And having the fibromyalgia and having the lupus and having all of that, like, that is miserable. Like I
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
is really, really, really tough. And so, you mentioned in your story that you recognize that a lot of people suffer from this. And it's interesting. The last person that I had an interview with, we were talking, I think I'm having so many blurred conversations, so I actually don't remember who it was, but I think maybe it was in class. It was in class. Yes, it was in class. And we were talking about the body and how the body stores stress, chronic stress and trauma, and how women are, I think, 80 times more likely to develop some of these chronic autoimmune disorders than men. Not that men don't, but women do tend to more so. And so it is, it's it's this combination of things. You mentioned the gut, also I'm going to say chronic stress. It can be, traumatic events that are stored in the body. It can be environmental. It can be people pleasing, wanting to keep our mouths shut.
Yeah.
Right?
That was one of the main ones for me, was people pleasing and stress and trauma, just all piled into one body.
Yeah. And so I just, not to put you back in that's not my intention at all, but, you mentioned it just went so quick, right? Like I had this and then I started healing my gut. And with you, I know it was more than just the food. I remember, I know how connected you were to breath. I know how connected you were to yoga. I remember seeing you were posting yoga videos all the time and just really reconnecting with your body. And you use the term felt sense, and starting to honor yourself more. Is there anything more that you would want to say about just that honoring yourself more? Or you said people pleasing was part of my thing, so.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I'm really glad you brought that up, because like subconsciously it's almost like I didn't really want to touch any of that. It is just as important though to talk about like the trauma that that was stored in my body, and like still is a journey of like continuing to like let go of these little like fragmented pieces like along the way. And you're totally right. Like it really has been this journey of like first recognizing and acknowledging like, whoa, I have emotions and stored trauma, and like this is what it feels like when I get triggered, or that gets triggered. My abdomen is tight, or I have a headache, or my throat is feeling really weird and stuff like that. And also, apologies, I have tie-dye all over my fingers from the other day.
That's okay.
But yeah, just a lot of stored emotions, and first acknowledging it, and then being able to openly express in safe spaces, or even in spaces where I'm learning how to set a boundary with someone, and recognizing like, hey, I don't think this environment really works for me. Like when I left Kansas, it really just was a place that didn't serve me anymore. A group of just energy that really just wasn't serving me. And as much as I loved these people and had been around them my whole life, I began to realize that there was just more out there for me, and not in a way where I completely had to abandon or run away from these people and places. It was more like, oh, I get to choose, I get to decide, I get to change my mind. It's not all just black and white. And when I started to see it that way, and really just taking care of me, I was able to say, hey, I don't want to be at that family gathering for more than an hour, or like things just seemed more optional, more malleable, more like, oh, I have a choice in my life. I'm the creator. Like it just felt a lot more freeing. And even in those moments, like this past week, I'll be honest, like I've been out here for 3 months. It's been an adjustment, and I've been really enjoying it. And I'm in like my first week of like, I've paid off a lot of stuff. My finances are kind of low. Like, what am I going to do? Am I going to slip back into like old habits, or am I going to find a new way of doing something? Or am I going to be forgiving if I happen to go deliver some food and like it just these little stories I used to tell myself of like, I'm not falling back into anything. I get to choose what this means for me. And um, so it's just been fun at the same time. Yeah, it hasn't been easy. It hasn't been, um, yeah, it hasn't been easy. There have been times of like physical pain, especially the first few years of lupus. And after eating better, it's almost like yoga found me. It was like, oh, you're ready for this next thing that can help you maybe transition off of some of your medications. And um, that's why I love when I talk to my clients and or family members who are still on medication. I love to say, you know, you're at where you're at. It has a purpose, and I'm not here to tell you what that is. Like, that's your journey. Here's some tools and resources that can help be a placeholder or a transitional marker, or even just something on top of your medication, like whatever that is for you. I kind of just let go of the like expectation for a specific outcome, kind of like one breath really has helped me integrate is to be a better facilitator in that way, to really let go of any expectation and just remember that had someone come to me 5 years ago and said, listen, like yoga will save you, the breath will save you, I would have been like, you're crazy. I don't know what you're talking about. Um, so I like to approach it in that way, and I feel more approachable. I feel like the people I'm helping right now, they're not coming through innate illumination. They're my wilderness clients, and that's just where I'm at right now. And I feel very where I'm meant to be. Um, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so many powerful gems of wisdom in there. And thank you for speaking a little bit, going a little bit more in depth on your journey. And I just appreciate you doing that, because for those who may be suffering with any kind of chronic illness or pain, particularly autoimmune, there's hope, right? There is hope. There is, you can feel better. You can feel better, and you can take responsibility for yourself and your own life. And I love that, you know, your open door of, the door is open if you want to walk through it, but I'm not going to tell you what to do, because you're recognizing and identifying that we can only hear what we're ready to hear. And somebody like you who's already done it and already walked through the door and already healed yourself is such a powerful, resourceful guide for somebody who might not believe that they can, right? Yeah, who might not believe that they can. And we're all different in our journey, but at the same time, somebody who's walked that path before you can be so supportive. So I imagine you'll be working with a lot more people with some of these issues. And I also want to speak to, you know, how when you take your healing into your own hands, it does, you know, you're speaking to the power of reclaiming responsibility for your life. And when you do that, you start to recognize that I do have choices here. And yeah, I can love my family. I can love all the place where I came from and all of the people in it. And it's still not the right place for me to be right now. And, and it can be scary. It can be such a scary thing for people to just leave all of that. Even, you know, there can be comfort in that too. And so how did you feel? I mean, you seemed really excited and you seemed really just like in alignment with your path. So it kind of seemed just exciting, but I'm just curious what more you might have been feeling about the decision that you made and taking off on this journey.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. I probably 4 to 5 months prior to leaving, I felt like something was coming. I know I'm not meant to be here anymore. I don't have all the answers. Why don't I have them? Why? And I kept looking into my human design, like I'm a projector, and I was like, okay, I'm waiting for this invitation, but it didn't feel right in that waiting period, in that waiting energy. It felt different. It was like, I don't think I'm supposed to be waiting for anything. I think I'm supposed to act on an invitation, and the invitation didn't look or sound like I thought it was. It wasn't like this like glowing light in the sky telling me that I need to leave Kansas. It came in the invitation through a confrontation, through setting boundaries, through like just a lot of karmic stuff being brought up for me and asking me to make a different choice. And I think that's how the invitation presented itself to me. And granted, that might be different for each person. So I'll just speak to my own experience. I had a run in with a family member and I said, this is it. Like, I don't deserve to be treated like this anymore. Since then, I've kind of been mending that relationship and have decided um, to keep it an open thing and like something I can grow, with this person. But it was honestly a blessing in disguise, telling me like, you're meant to leave now. And there were a lot of unknowns. I didn't have a ton of money coming out here. I knew that I would be taken care of once I started my wilderness therapy journey. But there was a lot of trust and a lot of just praying, a lot of breath work, a lot of meditation, a lot of crying. Like right before I did a lot of physical purging, like I sold a lot of my stuff. And with the physical purging, there was a lot of emotional purging. Like it was a slow process for about 2 or 3 months. I would get rid of something or something sentimental from like, a past relationship or something. And like that emotion was also physically being shed when I was selling it. And so it was like this slow process of like letting go physically, letting go emotionally. And then by the time I was ready to go, it was like the night before, and I just started vlogging. I made like a video log that I would typically just put like on my computer as like a little journey. And I decided to, or a journal, and I put it on YouTube because I thought, I think people need to like see this like side of my life where it's not just me going on these adventures in my van, or hosting breath work, and all that's really awesome. And I love sharing that. I want them to see like this raw version of me that cries and is upset and is like hesitant to leave, but I know I meant to. Like the day before I left, um, I went to a family member's bridal party, and this is someone who I thought was going to be in my life forever. And this was one of those relationships that just didn't come along with me.
Yeah.
And I walked out of the event and I saw a huge vulture feather just sitting there on the side of the road. And whenever I see one, at least during this time of my life, it just marks an ending, for me. And
Yes.
it's not easy. Like I feel like just because I know and I see these signs and I feel really connected in that way. And it is a source of comfort and trust in just this inner knowing. At the same time, there's still these very human emotions of sadness and grief and like mourning this like old version of me and these old relationships that grew me, like that was my water when I was 5, and I learned how to like, you know, be with bugs and trees, and it was my sunlight when I was 15, when I was learning how to talk to boys and like friends with, my cousin, and just all the people and places that were ever there for me for the first 33 years of my life. And I was letting that like go, except it's still within me. So yeah, just very human emotions that moved through this transition. Yeah, that I still want to be very open and vulnerable about, and sharing that like, oh, I may be living in my van, living the life. I'm a wilderness mentor, building my business and creating all this new fun stuff to like make it this fun experience, I still have to acknowledge these uncomfortable emotions. The multiple days I cried this week on shift when I missed my family and just stuff like that, you know, learning what positive stress means and feels like in my body.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. You're speaking to, what you're really highlighting and demonstrating is, the full range of the human experience. I'm really experiencing you to be connected and in flow to all of that. They're to feeling it all, to feeling the joy, to feeling the connection, to feeling the excitement, and also to feeling the sadness and the grief and the endings that come with the new beginnings. And that's such a dynamic place to be that, that I feel like I appreciate the fact that you're modeling that, you're feeling called to model that for your community because yeah, in my experience, at times when we're supposed to feel sad, we might diminish our happiness, right? Or times when you're supposed to be happy, you might diminish your sadness. And it truly is the full being in touch with the full spectrum of emotion is being present, is being human, and is being, authentic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh gosh, I feel that. I feel like being a wilderness mentor for for young youth, from like they're young men between the ages of 13 and 18. And that's what brought me out to Utah, although it's given me the ability to tie in what I'm doing now, and still not have all the answers. Like I'm still
Well, when you have all the answers,
yeah,
then you'll know that you are
yeah,
in your
then I'm
ego.
done. Exactly. Either I'm in my ego or I'm on to the next life because I'm not meant to be here anymore. And so yeah, just thank you for that reminder because yeah, like it is this fun, mysterious journey of like right now what I'm working on is I want to build a physical booth out here in St. George because I've been going to the farmers markets and been making friends with local creators and business owners. And I have my astrological breathwork business and I love this. And I wanted to create like a physical experience someone could like step into. Because a huge part of me has been like foraging out in the wilderness. I've been making like smudge sticks and collecting crystals and making like my own teas. And I want to like make a booth with that. And a curandera is just like a modern, or it's an ancient name for a witch or like a medicine woman.
Okay.
And so that's what I feel called to like bring to the local Utah area is these things that can be foraged out in the wilderness of Utah. There's sage bushes everywhere, white sage bushes, mullein, and all of these like healing herbs. And it's taught me so much about like the service economy and giving back and my connection to Mother Earth. Because there was quite some time where I was kind of up in the stars and the cosmos and astrology. And I was like, okay, how do I like ground this and like share it in the physical realm where us humans live? And and so I want to tie both in, is like, bring people physically into my space and my world and share that with the rest of the world. And the service economy keeps coming up for me these last few years of how can I share what I've learned, and bring people into a culture where I'm just teaching people like how they can physically heal with herbs, with teas, with smudging, with crystal work. Cause I use crystals for while I do yoga as well. And I feel like that's been a huge part of my healing journey too. And
Sure.
So these little things that have helped me along the way. And then, oh, hey, here's my breathwork business card, and just here's that. And so, yeah, just getting really excited about that. Ultimately, it's being out in the wilderness for 8 days at a time, 16 days a month, that has really, it's been probably one of the biggest catalysts to me being present, because I'm out in nature, and there's something that starts to happen when I don't have my phone for days at a time and I'm living off the land. I'm hiking every day. It's so beautiful out there, and there's just like this almost loud silence that comes over
Yeah.
me. And I'm also, though, face to face with some very troubled children, and trying to be present with that has been one of the biggest challenges, because it's been triggering my stuff.
Yeah.
It's been so rewarding at the same time. Like, I'm doing breath work with them, I'm doing yoga. This wasn't something I initially incorporated. It was something I was super nervous to introduce, especially because it's a bunch of young boys that think yoga is stupid, and like, you know.
There are some, like, Ashtanga yoga was developed for teenage boys.
What?
Yeah, Ashtanga. So I studied in India. So yeah, you didn't know this. Yeah, Ashtanga yoga was developed for teenage boys with a lot of energy. And so
What?
Ashtanga yoga, specifically, and a lot of the postures, some of those postures and the pace is for teenage boys. And so that has been adapted by white women. Let's just call it like it is. But the broader society in the West, and people are trying to hold themselves to these standards to get into these postures or to be able to do these things that were not actually developed for their bodies. So that is something, 16 sounds like you didn't know. So be aware of that.
Yes.
Yeah, particularly having been a yoga teacher for, I'm still am, but I taught for 17 years, and I started in India, and so traditional hatha yoga, and learning so much about the body, and it's really, we lose the mark when we try to push ourselves into positions that we
Yes.
are not meant to be in. I know that this resonates with you, but yeah, you can tell these young boys that that Ashtanga yoga, or a lot of these yoga postures, was developed for teenage boys. So, but it just goes to show how far disconnected, since we're speaking about nature, how far disconnected we are from the origin of yoga. As
Yes.
well. That they, that they would not would feel that way, because who do you see doing it, and what, where do you where do you see it popularized? So
Yeah.
will you share more, because we haven't really touched on that. So you said that you got this opportunity to come out to Utah to work in this wilderness camp, and it's young boys and they're troubled, and you're out with them, and you're leading them in nature for like 8 days.
Yes.
So who are these boys, and what, like,
Yeah.
yeah,
Oh my
tell us
gosh.
more about this.
I feel like I had a feeling coming out here that it was also going to be like my initiation as well, like this rebirth of like, okay, like now, a lot of staff out here talk about it being like personal therapy for them as well, because a lot of these kids get brought out here from either their parents or another program. It's like a sexual based like trauma program, whether they've offended or they've been victimized, but most of the time they're the offender. Um, and they also have emotional attachment disorder as well. So, um, like, being a staff out there, it's super important to be present and to stay present. And they actually with One Breath Institute, talking about ego states and things like that. And it's holding the staff and students accountable, where they talk about how a lot of these kids come in on emotional vacation, which to me translates as they're living kind of out of body because they've dealt with either their own trauma or, they've repeated that pattern and have offended and things like that. And most kids come out of the program, about 98 to 99% do not reoffend. And what's different about Star Guides, the program I'm in, is that they focus a lot on what's called the Anasazi method, where it's very wilderness based. They learn hard skills like blowing a fire, putting up a shelter, and us staff, we have to learn it too. So I've learned, how to live off of the land basically. And so do the kids. And so it's like this back and forth of, we're keeping each other alive. I'm making sure they have water, making sure they have enough food, shelter, guiding them on hikes, making sure that they're doing like their therapy work and daily journaling, recreational therapeutic activities, self-care, and really just personal hygiene. Like it's all super important and really a part of their growth. So they'll move from like phase 1 to phase 6 and then eventually graduate from the program, whether they move into like a residential program after they go back home. A lot of the time they're just young kids. And I have to remind myself that like a lot of the time, we work on emotional regulation and things like that. And things like breathwork and yoga hasn't been really introduced. So I felt like when I got there, I was more observing, learning the hard skills, learning how to be a staff. And now I feel like I'm coming into my own. I've been about 2 months staff officially. And it feels very much like I need to be present with myself and my personal care so that I can then be present with the students. So my first few weeks there, I learned that one of my ego states that I would slip into very often would be a nurturing parent. And that was just so comfortable. It was a comfortable place for me to be. And I recognized that I had parents that were either super critical or super nurturing, one or the other. And how I would slip into those states when trying to just nurture a child who, was having trouble with a fire or, something simple. And they would call me out on it, which was really nice because they were through enough of the program to say, hey, I don't need to be nurtured. And so it's a really good way for not just students, but for staff to say, I think I'm in like this critical ego right now, or I'm being a little nurturing. Why? Like, did I grow up that way, or is it triggering something within me? And noticing when I'm at that good balanced adult ego state is what they like to call it. And it's so interesting because it's been a real test of like continuing to not stay in a story as well, because I may have gone in super nurturing and now I'm coming into my own and recognizing, even having learned those ego states, am I still continuing to put myself in a story, and always just checking myself in that way, that I'm not really attached to any specific thing. But I'm noticing if I do fall into something. So it's been really cool to hold myself accountable, to be present, and to help these kids learn emotional regulation. And sometimes I'm the first human they've ever seen in their whole lives who in some way, shape, or form knows how to emotionally regulate and interact with someone who isn't living in a trauma triangle. We learn that too in Star Guides, which is so in connection to everything we've learned at One Breath. So yeah, we come in every Monday and we meet and talk before we go out on the field. And then for 8 days, we're out there. We have Wi-Fi to do paperwork, but that isn't all the time. So most of the time we don't have signal. We're out in the wilderness, beating the Utah heat and weather. And it's really humbling.
I'm sure. Yeah, I'm sure. Wow. Wow, Macy. Yeah. Wow, why did it take us so long to get to the talking about this? I mean, all of it is important,
Right,
but this
right.
is such powerful work that you're doing. People can have a hard time, even if it's youngsters, children. People can have a hard time having compassion for people who have been an abuser, right?
Hmm.
And that can be a trigger for some. And so having compassion for and working with people who have done harm because of their own whatever, their own history, maybe abuse that they've experienced, or a personality disorder. You said a lot of them have some, may have potential personality disorders, things, mental health issues. It's really beautiful to hear that such a program exists, that you have a 98, I think you said 98 to 90% so far. They're not, what's the word, recommitting
Yeah,
any crimes.
right.
They're actually rehabilitating through this process. And so when you think about the ripple effect that trauma has on one person, if somebody perpetuates an act of sexual harm or violence on even just one person, that can ripple out to generations. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, and if there's multiple people, then that's, and whole communities and families and all of these things. So it's really supporting healing on a large scale when you look at, societal and generational, intergenerational experiences. So it's really beautiful.
Thank you. I feel the same. I'm like, oh my gosh, like I wanted to help people, work through trauma, and I feel like I happened upon like a place where I can get to the root of it, where, yeah, um, with one client in particular, yeah, we were talking about kind of the hard questions, the curious questions, like, you know, um, how do you think this has affected that person, and how do you think it's going to continue to affect their lives, and really get these young kids who have offended, or at risk too, to do that, to ask themselves these hard questions, like, what kind of ripple effect are you creating, and how can, why did you do what you did, and moving through those really uncomfortable emotions, and also, um, it seems to be this recurring theme of like self-worth with them, telling them, and not just telling them, but getting them to tell themselves, like, you're worth it. You can have a better life. Like, it's up to you. You don't have to define yourself, by what you did. At the same time, let's work through, like, maybe what happened to you to get you to this place, and how you've affected people so far, and like really reflect on that, and just go from there. And granted, I don't see a lot of the end game for a lot of these kids. Sometimes we'll get a letter or alumni that comes back, but for the most part, I'm really not seeing like the end result. I just feel like, yeah, this is where I'm meant to be at this time, and yeah, you're totally right. This ripple effect of generational, trauma that can really be like cut off right here.
Yeah.
um, so that,
Yeah.
yeah, it feels like the right place to be, and honestly a good stepping stone for whatever is next. Trying not to get too ahead of myself, and really just being like, this right now is amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, my one of my mentors, Casey, who was my mentor when I was going into women's prison,
Yeah.
he used to say, "You'll never you will may never ever ever see or never ever know the effects that you are bringing in when you are working with whomever you're working with, particularly when you're coming into these environments and working with these types of people where it's just a program, it's a stepping stone. And there's whatever's going to happen next. So it's leaning into so much trust and inner knowing, that I don't need to see it. I don't need to know it. I know that it's happening. I know that it's happening. And you do have, it sounds like, some of that feedback from the people who are keeping track.
Yeah.
Which is nice to have that reassurance, but even without it, just being in that knowing that we, are doing good and are helping and are supporting, and just leaning into that so much. And, the confidence building and the, being out in Utah, you talked about like the heat and the nature and survival skills, and you're keeping each other alive. Like, you're, for one, learning all of these amazing survival skills and ways of being, and you're personally growing and having these experiences, and you look buff.
I feel stronger. I really do. I've been I'll hike with like a 30 or 40 pound pack, like for
Okay.
7-8 miles at a time.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
I feel stronger.
Sure. Like physically, emotionally, mentally, probably
Yes.
spiritually, all of it.
Yes.
So I can just imagine how developing these skills at such a young age. I mean, just being in nature is healing, right? And now you're developing these skills on how to live in nature, how to be sufficient in nature, and helping other people, right? We're keeping each other alive. Like that, there's so much to develop, self-confidence and self-pride in that experience for these boys.
I feel that way. Like these last few weeks I've been starting to like lead hikes and like go through these checklists that you have to go through to become a staff. Like, okay, lead your first map and compass hike. And the day I did that, we were almost temped out. We probably were. It was getting really hot, and we were about 6 miles in, and bushwhacking. We don't have like a true trail. I kind of just follow like a Garmin, and you kind of follow north. And that's been a huge confidence builder. And I feel as the kids see me get more confident, it's this back and forth of, like they have started to see how I experience being out in nature, and that, like, yes, it's a wilderness program and it's sometimes designed to be miserable for them. At the same time, there are times where we'll be on a miserable hike or it's really hot, and I'll find a really cool black obsidian, because there's obsidian all over the place out here and it's so cool. And we call it a ground scoring, and I'll find a really cool ground score and get super excited that a butterfly just passed by and it was really big and yellow. And I found, like, the more I express who I am and how I experience that, they're like, oh, I don't have to be miserable. Like, granted, there are times where, like, yeah, it's going to be hard and it's going to suck, and they have to carry their water and their pack, and, it's meant to be hard. But there are really times where, like, I picked out my first camp for the first time as staff, and I hiked zero point 0.2 miles up a hill. And typically, that's not what a group would do. We would just kind of go from the road to a flat area. And I was like, no, like, I want a good view. We're going to find something fun. It'll be a little more extra work getting our gear up there, but it'll be fine. And so I walked back down. I told them to build their cairn, like their little, rock tower, to make sure that staff knows where we're at. to drop off food that we need and stuff like that. And so we start hiking to our campsite, and I'm starting to hear it from them. I prepared myself. I knew that I was going to get, some grief for this. And, oh, it's so hot. Are we there yet? Oh my gosh, this sucks. Everything's heavy. And they're like dropping their packs and picking it back up. But then by the time we got up there, we probably stayed there for 3 or 4 days for layover therapy days and things like that. And the view was amazing. I saw some of the kids like sitting not towards camp, but they're still in camp, but they're like looking away, like at the view, and having a completely new fun experience and realizing like, I hiked up this, I got all my gear up here, I just pitched my tent, we're gonna make dinner soon, and like just this feeling of accomplishment. So even though I knew I was gonna risk getting yelled at and have kids not like me, I'm realizing like the more I let go of like being liked in my people pleasing era, which is like I'm at the very end of that phase, I'm beginning to step more into like, I'm going to be me. You might not like it at first. And then you're going to get up to this mountain and it's going to be really beautiful. And all the dragonflies are going to come out. And it was a beautiful experience. And so I'm having more and more of those of like moving through uncomfortable emotions, moving through people maybe misunderstanding me or even maybe not liking me, and just being okay with that. And, for the most part, a lot of people coming back around and being like, wow, oh my gosh. And just looking forward to me coming on shift, and not being the staff that is liked. That's not my goal. My goal is to, just to be a safe space for these kids. And sometimes that means they're not always going to like me. But yeah, that's been the journey and it's been really cool.
Yeah. You're speaking to just more and more throughout this entire conversation. You've been speaking to the power of being yourself and leaning into being yourself, and how when you choose to just liberate yourself from other people's expectations or ideas or thoughts about who you are or what you're supposed to be, like just through that liberation of self, there's so much permission for other people to do that too, which is just kind of like a little side note I want to highlight, because that's what I see happen is when you do that, you're giving permission to other people to do that as well. And through that as well is like, you're trusting yourself, you're trusting your journey, you're saying, you're bringing in this, like, it's not just going to be a cookie cutter experience. It's not going to be the same experience. It's going to be, the thing that kept coming through my mind as you were just talking, you were sharing that story about going up the mountain so that you would have the better view, and how you ended up staying there 3 days and it was this magical experience, is like, suffering is optional. Like pain, yes, we're gonna have it. It's very Zen. It's very Buddha, in some ways Buddhist in nature. I was involved in Zen Buddhism for a long time, and there's a lot of these Zen proverbs about before enlightenment, I chopped wood and carried water. And then after enlightenment, I chopped wood and carried water, because what shifts, we're doing the same things that are potentially challenging, but it's the way that we engage with those things. It's the attitude that we have. And that, going back to that piece that you were speaking to before, that all the emotions can be, or all the different experiences can be there at the same time. Yes, it can be challenging. And there's this beautiful butterfly. Oh my gosh. And this is challenging. And oh my gosh, look at the view,
So true.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. So thank you for all of that. And, you were speaking to the farmer's market, and how you were speaking to how you used to be up in the clouds. And yeah, I can see how but through the connection to nature and through the learning, all of the skills that you're learning now, and just trusting to yourself to live off the land and to be on this journey on your own, grounds you into the earth, connects you into the earth, and you're finding all of these beautiful sticks and stones and healing and things that are healing, which is, you know, the shaman is connected to the land, is connected to nature, and connected to spirit as well. And so now I get it a little bit more, you know, what you're wanting to do and what you're wanting to bring together. And I have, such a beautiful image of you creating the space. Like, I see it as like this, like, little tent, like, that people got to go through. They got to go through the curtain to come in to see what's inside.
Yeah, that's how I feel. Like, I wanted this, like, physical experience, because I was like, how do I, like, bring people into, like, the world that I see myself sharing? Because, like, you know, it's all in here, you know? And, like, I know you feel that too, right? Where you're like, this, like, in my mind, it's like this, like this fairy cottage apothecary, like, Nordic witch vibe of, like, I just want to share all of that and have people walk into, like, that space where there's, like, little twinkle lights and my tarot cards and my crystals are sitting there and my smudge sticks, and just talk to them about whatever they're interested in, whether they want a tarot reading, whether they want, you know, to book a breathwork session, or they just want to buy a smudge stick or have a little, like, free tea sample. Like, I don't know what that is, but I want to, like, share little spurts of how I experience the world out, in that way. And I felt like this just feels right. Like, I used to get so stressed about, like, how do I connect astrological breath work with, like, me selling teas, and, like, I would just be so in my head, and I'm like, I don't need to be that way. Like, I'm just gonna go talk to the people at the farmers market, pay $20 and set up a booth and just do it. And it doesn't need to be perfect. And I went on Canva, I made my little tea labels, and I went on that same journey of, like, oh, I can't afford a label printer to make stickers for this. And I'm like, hold on, back up. I can print these at the library and I can tie them on to my little packaging that's coming in a few days. And, like, it doesn't have to be perfect. I just have to do it.
It
so,
doesn't, you know, OBI graduates and everybody else who is starting your business, it doesn't have to be perfect. I just have to do it. Shout out from the rafters. Yes. Yes.
Because I see people out in, like, there's, like, a big farmer's market, and then there's, like, a smaller one, like, north of the main town, and it's got a small town vibe. And so I think I'll start there. Is, like, the booths are cheaper. It's got a, like, a more, like, small town, like, moms running booths, and, like, it's got more of a country feel, which I really like. And I was like, I'm going to go start there and meet new people. And it's been so fulfilling myself to be someone new coming into the county and, like, getting to know people, getting to know, like, the story of, like, local farmers. And it's just so fun. I want to be a part of it. So yeah, that's the plan.
That's exciting. That's exciting. So do you have a date when you're going to start this?
Yeah. So I get my packaging in a few days. So I'm thinking probably on my next off. I'm looking at the calendar. My goal is either next Saturday, the 16th, or the 30th of August. I should have an official booth up at the farmers market.
Congratulations. I'm so excited for you. That's really exciting. It's really, it sounds perfect. It sounds fun. I'm excited by your excitement, and take pictures, take videos.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
I'm sure you will. I'm sure you will, and share those with us. And
Yeah.
Yeah, just coming back to, I don't even remember that was so long ago before we started before we hit record.
Right?
It was like last year.
That's how I feel. I just went into like a time portal. Like,
Yeah, but we were talking, for whatever reason, we were talking about how the journey is the destination. And so I love that you are just in this place of curiosity and following what feels right in the moment and without needing to know where that's going to go. And so just want to highlight that for you and for everybody else. And it's going to be exciting to continue. I'm over here cheering you on. I've been over here, you know that. I'm cheering
yes.
you on. I love the watching and witnessing the growth, and I didn't have a full. I knew you were going out to Utah to work in a wilderness. I didn't have the full story, so this is so powerful what you're doing, and yeah, it'll be really interesting to see where it all leads. And I fully trust and know that you're going to be on this journey, this part of your journey, until it's time to be on the next part of your journey.
Oh, thank you. Like, I just feel this huge, immense gratitude, because I myself have felt this way with others, being like, kind of like that feeling of like, I know that I'm not the core source of like having healed this person, right? Um, I just feel this huge sense of connection towards like people that I've had one-on-ones with or whatever. And I feel like this connection with One Breath where like, I don't know how much you and Debbie and my classmates from both cohorts feel. For me, I feel like it's like, oh my gosh, you guys came into my life at this like momentous time of my journey. And I'm just so grateful for it. And to like have this community that I can hop on and talk to you about things like this. Like I feel rejuvenated even just after being on this podcast, um, and just continuing to share like just our journeys, and yeah, just appreciating this open container and this space, not just for having become a facilitator, but to come back as an alumni and just share my journey. So I'm like trying to put words to what these feelings are, and I don't even think I can. It's
I
just like
see
this,
them.
like
I feel them.
it's that.
Yeah. 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 It is to me, it is such a privilege. It is such a privilege to be part of people's journey to healing and to self-realization. That's my purpose, is to help people self-realize, which is to be living their purpose, to be living the life that is meant for them. And yeah, so I feel just so much excitement and so alive in that. And yeah, I have a personal investment and connection to everyone who comes through the school. And so with that, you pop in sometimes too and share group breathes and things along those lines that, the community can come into. And so are you still working with people online, or still having monthly breathworks like that people can connect with you virtually?
Really still doing one-on-one sessions virtually, and that is all on my landing page on my link tree. And they're astrological breathwork based sessions, all online, unless you are local here in St. George, Utah, the Las Vegas area, the Arizona area. I'm kind of, I can travel. So that's also convenient. But mostly just virtual breathwork sessions, just holding space for people to reconnect with themselves and to help heal on a cellular level, as well as connect with their astrological blueprint. So yeah.
Perfect. Yeah, and we didn't really dive into that too much. There were so many things to talk about, so maybe we'll have you come back again and have
Yeah,
another
sure.
conversation. But I love talking about how the astrology is so personal to us, and how that type of experience of looking at the astrology and how it is affecting you personally with breathwork can be just so powerful. So all of Macy's links will be below this so that you can connect with her. And I think you have 2 Instagram accounts. So will you
Yes.
tell us Instagram so that they can go and follow you on Instagram too?
Yeah, absolutely. So on my landing page, you'll have my innate illumination, all of my socials for that. So my Instagram is at innate illumination. My personal, I don't think is connected to that, but if you'd like to add me on my personal Instagram, it is I am the third pillar. And yeah, that's me. Yeah, you'll most likely find my socials through my landing page, whether it's my YouTube to connect with free breathwork resources, my Instagram where you can, you know, keep up on my wildy life, living out of a van, or if you want to get a little bit more into just healing with through astrology, you can check out innate illumination. So yeah.
Perfect. Yeah. And again, all of those will be below. And any final anything before we close out, Macy?
Yeah. A quote that came to me at the beginning of our conversation when you were bringing up, like what got you here? What are some of the areas in which I would say I experienced a dark night of the soul, right? To bring me along on this magical journey. It's by Rumi. The wound is where the light enters you, and that just continues to resonate with me throughout life. That yeah, suffering is optional. That pain is still here, but that it can be a huge catalyst for healing and growth. So that's it.
Perfect. Yeah, the wound is where the light comes in. So let's take a breath.
Okay.
And I want to thank you so much for sharing yourself today. And thank everyone for listening. And be sure to like and share and follow Macy. And we'll see you next time. Thank you for listening to One Breath Wisdom. If something in today's episode spoke to you, I would love to know it. Send me a message on Instagram at One Breath Institute or at Lisa McNett, and please share the episode with someone else who needs to hear it. Remember, you are not here to carry it all. You are here to come home to yourself, one breath at a time. Until next time, take a breath and be well.